Hello nerds and nerdettes, and welcome back to the channel. A long time no see. As you guys can see, I have completed my move, but I haven't completed putting away all my books or anything like that, so we still have a little while to go. But I did want to pop back into the channel, get the channel up and running once again, and start filming for you guys because I've been having a crazy creative itch to make some videos and talk comics and read more comics, because really during this entire moving process there hasn't been a whole lot going on other than moving. So I'm super excited to be back, and we are going to start this new journey of this new Illuminati cave, if you will, with a massive haul. Pretty much what this is going to be is it's going to be everything that I got during the months that I've pretty much been gone. I haven't opened any of them other than just yesterday, so they were all in their boxes that they were shipped in. Some still have plastic on them and haven't been opened either. But if I want to start putting my collection away, I want to make sure to share with you all what I've been picking up and what I'm excited to read. But also, you all do the same and let me know down below what books you want me to talk about more, because since there is going to be so many, I'm not going to go too in-depth about each individual book. That way this video is not an hour long. But enough of the intro, enough of the jibber-jabbering. Let's go ahead and jump into the haul, doing our usual status quo of books that we go through, which is starting with manga, then we work our way into indie, and then DC, and then we usually wrap up with Marvel. So let's go ahead and jump into manga first. First up for manga is Goodnight Poon Poon. This is a title that I've been extremely excited about. I've waited and waited and waited to get it. I've heard it's extremely dark and depressing, but I'm still pumped to get it. Still has the plastic on it. Haven't cracked it open, but let's go ahead and move to the next book. Next up is another Inyo Asano title, which is Downfall. This is one of his lesser known titles. I haven't heard much about it other than it does deal with some forms of addiction and a struggling mangaka, I believe. Of course, correct me down below if I'm totally off, but I'm still very excited to check out more of his works because he is a great mangaka. Next up is another manga that I'm super excited to be recollecting, because I did have the original hardcovers, but this is volume number 2 of Vinland Saga, the deluxe editions. This is such a great series, my second favorite manga ever, and this is a almost identical style of deluxe edition as those Berserk Dark Horse deluxe editions. Do not sleep on Vinland Saga. If you like comics, manga, whatever it may be, please do yourself a favor and read this title, especially in this format. Next up is technically not a manga, but it is the Scott Pilgrim Little Innocent box set box. I don't remember the actual title of this. I don't have Scott Pilgrim collected in any format. I was a little disappointed in this format because these are soft covers. Just a heads up to those of you that are looking at purchasing this, but you do get the entire series in one box set and a little poster. And first up for my indie titles, I have Providence. This is a Alan Moore title. From what I've heard, it's one of his best titles and an extremely slept on Alan Moore title also, which is a rare gem to come across. I did find these in a local comic book store at my new area that I live in, and I picked all 3 volumes up in the hardcover editions. I want to say these are limited edition too. Not that that really adds anything to it. I just want to make sure that I'm saying the correct title of this format. Next up for indie titles, we do have I Hate Fairyland by Scotty Young. This is a title I've wanted to check out for a very long time. We do have volume 1 and volume 2. This is the DCBS cover. I did take advantage of IST's red tag sale. when you're moving, you're balling on a budget, and I highly recommend checking out those red tag sales because they have some pretty cool stuff in there that can definitely save you some money. But I am extremely excited to get the entire series here in hardcover format. Next up is The Big Hard Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. Matt Fraction doing the writing and Chip Zdarsky actually doing the art. He's not as well known for his art as he is for his writing at this particular time because he's on so many incredible titles, but this is one of his early on titles, I believe, in a highly acclaimed, great edition. Underneath the dust jackets, which I can go over a little bit more, they have like little funny covers so you're not reading a book about sex, but we can go into that a little bit more in a separate video. We have Philadelphia. This is a title I have not read at all, but I am extremely a huge fan of any type of vampire or zombie story, like I've probably said in 1.5 million of my videos at this point. And Philadelphia is no exception here. It is a vampire thriller type story that takes place in Philadelphia. Get the title, Philadelphia, and I am very excited to finally check it out. Then we have Skyward, which is another title I have not heard much about and I have not read. I've said multiple times on the channel I'm trying to pad out my indies title collection that I have going, and this was one that I've always wanted to check out. It's a very beautiful book, and I'm excited to finally read it. And then in a similar genre as Philadelphia, we have, the title's a little bit of a mouthful, 10,000 Black Feathers. It is a Jeff Lemire title. It's a horror thriller anthology, I believe. Correct me down below if I am wrong, but still, love me a horror story, so that's why I picked it up. And then if you guys remember a couple hauls ago, I have been increasing my collection or slowly collecting the Power Ranger Deluxe Edition hardcovers, and here we are, yet another one. This is Power Rangers Lost Chronicles. Like I said, I only just saw these books yesterday, so I don't even remember what half of them are. I haven't heard very good things about a lot of the material in here, but these deluxe editions are so beautiful with the spines and everything like that, so I had to pick it up. It's Power Rangers. I'm collecting Power Rangers, so here I am. And rounding out the indies, we have some big boys, some Rick Remender deluxe editions. This is a highly acclaimed series. This is probably one all of you made sure to purchase because it's second time being printed. We never thought it would be reprinted, and here it is finally. This title, Fear Agent, did have 3 covers. It had the original cover, it had a more panoramic-like cover, and then it had the profile grid style of cover, which is the one that I went with. Here's volume 1. And here's volume 2. I've said before how much I love Rick Remender's writing, but also the formats of his books are my favorite format in all of comic books, in all of collected editions. So every Rick Remender book I'm going to have at some point. And starting up first with DC, we do have Batman Curse of the White Knight, which is a Sean Murphy title. He does the writing and the art. It's his own universe that he's kind of building in his own little world. I did get White Knight Beyond, or Batman White Knight Beyond, or something like that, free from Organic Price Books, and I wanted to continue collecting the series. I have not read all of the White Knight. I've read bits and pieces here and there, and what I have read, I've very much enjoyed, and of course, like anybody, I love anything that Sean Murphy typically puts out. And then next up for DC, we have Wildcats, the hardcovers, volume 1 and 2. I actually have not read any of this series, any of this title, so let me know down below what you all thought, if it's a title that I should continue to read or continue to collect or not. I'm very interested in seeing this new era of Wildcats in this more modern era of DC. Grifter, I've always been a huge fan of, so I'm pumped to see where they're going to go with the characters. Next up is Emperor Joker, the deluxe edition. This is actually a story that I'm not a huge, massive fan of, but there's like a nostalgia factor to it because I did read it when I was younger. But still, it has to do with Joker getting endless power, and what he would do with that power, which is a very interesting concept to explore. Next up is Superman Birthright by one of my favorite writers, Mark Waid. This is arguably a lot of people's favorite Superman story ever, and I am a huge Superman fan in general, so it had to make its way into the library. And next up for DC is The Kingdom. This is a sequel to Kingdom Come in a lot of ways, but not a approved sequel by all of the creators. Kingdom Come was a story made by Mark Waid and Alex Ross, but both of them have kind of made sequels to the story. I don't want to get into it, but still, I enjoy anything that has to do with Kingdom Come, which is why I picked it up. Next up is Strange Adventures, which is a pretty chunky deluxe edition, but it is still a deluxe edition, even though we have Omnis about the same thickness as this. But this is Tom King doing what he does best, exploring some more obscure characters. And I think it's one that you can kind of jump into fairly blind, no matter if you know the characters or not, but here it is. Then we have Batman the Black Mirror, which is one of the more well-known and well-received Batman stories. This is the variant cover. This deluxe edition did have two covers. DC doesn't do that often, so I said, why not jump on the other cover? Plus, I think it kind of pulls Black Mirror a little bit more if we're judging books by their covers. But still, so happy that finally this is out in a deluxe edition once again, and I can collect it since I've never really collected any absolutes, and I think that's the only other format other than a standard hardcover that this was printed in. And then in the same vein as Strange Adventures, we have Seven Soldiers by Grant Morrison, which is Grant Morrison exploring extremely obscure characters, and I'm always here for that. Then we have the Death Metal Omnibus. I did originally have the deluxe edition for this, which came out, what, a year, maybe 2 years ago, and then here we are with the Omnibus, following the Dark Knights of Metal Omnibus. This is the sequel to that. This is the climax to that. I kind of enjoyed this. I did think it went a little insane there at the end, but still, in a lot of ways, it's a crisis event, so it's something that I'm going to always put in my library because I love comic book events in general, so that's why I'm here. And speaking of comic book events, here we are with 0 Hour, the Omnibus, yet another crisis event omnibus. This is one I did not have in the collection. This is a crisis event that is not super well received, even though I tend to kind of enjoy it. But here we are in the collection, yet another event, and I'm always going to buy Event Omnibus. And here we are with one of my few semi-regrets when it comes to my purchases, and that is Batman Eternal, the Omnibus. I don't really enjoy this run. Don't really know why I purchased it. I could have lived without this omnibus, without this run in my library, but here I am. I have it in my possession now, so I'm going to give it another reread and see if it's something that I now, in my older age, will enjoy. I think all stories deserve multiple chances because we grow and develop as people, and sometimes a story you love you end up hating, and a story you hate you end up loving, so maybe that will be my journey with this particular run, but nonetheless, it's here in the library. And here we are with a very exciting DC Omnibus, which is The Flash by Joshua Williamson. This was a omnibus that so many of us were waiting for, and it is finally here, even though most of you have probably devoured this at this point because it came out so long ago, or feels like it came out so long ago. But shout out to Omni Nation. This was an omnibus that he wanted very, very badly, and he finally got it in his possession also. So here's to that. Love this run. Such a great character. He needs all of the runs that he's had throughout history in omnibus format. And here we are with Wonder Woman by Gail Simone, the omnibus. This is a bittersweet omnibus. It's sweet because I did not have this in my collection, and I love Wonder Woman as a character, and I love Gail Simone as a writer, but it's so bitter because right before this reprint got announced, we saw so many members of the community falling victim to FOMO and paying crazy inflated prices for this omnibus, and now here we are with a reprint. Ouch. But still, I am very excited to have it in the collection. This is a run that I've always been a huge fan of. Gail Simone is an incredible writer, and here's to hoping we get a Birds of Prey by Gail Simone omnibus. Don't know if that's been announced already or not. I've been very bad at keeping up with news during this move also, so if that has been announced, let me know. I'm falling behind here, but we're doing all right. Last but not least for DC is one of my most anticipated, most exciting releases, which is Young Justice, the Omnibus Volume 1. This is the prequel to Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run in a lot of ways, which is why they made the covers so similar. If you don't believe me, pull out those two omnibuses and look at them. They're almost identical. But man, this was my Teen Titans young hero like team and book. This was my Superboy, my Robin, my Wonder Girl. This is such an incredible run. I am so excited to finally get this in and opened and finally reread this, because I have not read a lot of this material in a very, very long time, and I am pumped to get into it. And we finally made it to Marvel. Man, I'm struggling here. But we do have Star Wars by Kieran Gillen and Greg Pak, the omnibus, continuing the Star Wars story and lore throughout the comic book format. Then we have Ghost Rider by Jason Aaron, the omnibus. This was one that hasn't been reprinted for a very long time. And here we are, and let's hope we get even more Ghost Rider in omnibus format. I very much enjoyed this story. This is a very kind of different storyline that Ghost Rider goes through, but Jason Aaron is such a stellar writer. I like almost every title that he's on. So check this out if you are a Ghost Rider fan, but if not, then maybe this is a book you might want to pass on. Next up, we have Black Panther by Christopher Priest, Volume 2, the omnibus. This is where Christopher Priest's run goes a little south for my taste, but still, I always have been a huge fan of Christopher Priest's run. He takes a lot of risks, so prepare yourself, especially jumping in to this particular volume, but still, Christopher Priest is a legend in the game, so almost every title he's touched should at least be read once for you to get your own thoughts on. Next up is one of my most anticipated and exciting releases from Marvel, which is the Omnibus for J. Michael Straczynski and Gillen's run on Thor. This has Siege in it. This has the incredible storyline that JMS was telling with Thor, reintroducing Donald Blake, and really the lore and mythos of Thor and Asgard, and it is such great stuff. This is one of my favorite runs, probably right behind Walt Simonson, and is a must read. I know Siege gets a little bit of hate here and there, but I have always loved that event. I think that event needs its own omnibus personally, but still so pumped to finally get this reprint and expanded edition. Next up, we have The New Mutants Volume 3. This title is one that I have never gotten a single volume not below cover price. I've always found it in a bargain bin or a red tag sale or in a LCS with a remainder mark on it, so it's 50% off or something crazy. So I am super pumped to keep following that trend and keep somehow collecting this title with amazing prices attached to them. Next up, in some ways can be viewed as a sequel to The New Mutants in some ways, and that is my preferred X title, which is X Factor. I've always loved this X book. This has always been my favorite X-Men team. I love Guido, I love Havoc, I love Reign, Wolfsbane, all of those characters. I love what Peter David does with those characters, especially that Volume 2, which is incredible. Volume 1 is good, but Volume 2 is really, really interesting what he does with one of the characters. But still, going to keep getting these X Factor omnibuses for sure because I love this X book. Next up, we got Captain America by Nick Spencer Volume 2. This was a extremely controversial run on the character of Captain America, or the title of Captain America, because maybe it's not following Steve Rogers, maybe it is, maybe this cover is giving away pretty much the plot of the story. But this is where you're going to have the Secret Empire stuff, which I won't get into because if you go into that blind, you can get a great shock when reading. Judgment Day, the Omnibus. This is X-Men versus Avengers versus Eternals. This was another event at Marvel. As I've said before, this is a event fans YouTube, so I will always be getting these event omnibuses. I think the build up to a lot of these storylines are really my bread and butter and what I crave the most when reading. So of course I'm going to get the omnibuses for those particular events. This is a pretty interesting concept that is explored, which I've already spent too much time on this particular book, but read it if you haven't already. It explores the entire Marvel universe pretty much with X-Men, Avengers, and Eternals. Now we have Daredevil by Brubaker Volume 2 that does collect the set. The entire run is collected between two omnibuses, but the Bendis and Brubaker make up 4 omnibuses, and that's really the entire story, because the story that they are telling kind of spans between the runs by the two creators, Brubaker and Bendis. So to get the entire story, you do need both of those runs collected, and I only have the Brubaker. So here's to collecting that Bendis run in omnibus format. Daredevil by Mark Waid, Volume 2. Volume 1 was one of my early omnibuses that I actually picked up. I got it for $10 at a secondhand store, and I've waited all this time to finally complete the run and get Volume 2 in my possession. Mark Waid is one of my favorite writers, probably arguably in my top 3, if not my top 2. So usually anything that he touches, writes, or thinks of, I'm going to collect, read, and more than likely enjoy. But still, this is a very interesting run and take on the character of Daredevil, and I highly recommend you guys checking it out if you haven't already. Next up, we have another event omnibus, which I love. I'm a huge fan of events, like I've probably said, 4 times during this video. I should have probably just kept them all together so you guys got the gist that I love Marvel and DC events. But here we are, Devil's Reign, focuses on Kingpin, Daredevil, story that takes place in New York. Don't want to spend too much time on it or give away too many details, but highly recommend checking it out, especially if you are reading the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run, because this almost takes place directly during or directly in the middle of that run. So check it out if you haven't already, especially if you're a event fan like this guy. Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 3. This omnibus famously had no cover that I actually enjoyed, but I ended up getting this cover if any of you were curious. This is super exciting because they're probably going to finish this entire series in omnibus format here very shortly, probably this calendar year, I would assume. Don't know anybody at Marvel, but that's what I would assume. But still, such an incredible title, a lot of people's favorite Spider-Man run. So if you haven't read it, read it. It is a little bit dated, but still great. Next one is a little bit of a spoiler, so if you guys do not want any spoilers about Ultimate Spider-Man or what may or may not take place, you can click away or fast forward, whatever you guys would like to do. But here we are, Ultimate Spider-Man, Death of Spider-Man, the omnibus. Do we know if this is going to double dip with a Ultimate Spider-Man omnibus? No. Or yes, we do know that. Do we know if it's going to collect the same material? All of the completion of the Death of Spider-Man? I'm not too sure. So I ended up picking it up just to be safe. If it's not, or if the same material is collected, then maybe it'll be a giveaway book or something. But still, I did not want to miss out on this storyline because this is such an impactful moment that takes place during Ultimate Spider-Man. Rolling out all of the Ultimate titles in omnibus format. Here we are with Ultimate X-Men Volume 2. This is still where I think Ultimate X-Men is still pretty enjoyable in my opinion. I am a huge fan of the Ultimate Universe. I actually love Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Ultimates. So if you don't like those titles, this may not be your cup of tea, but still, it's incredible that we're getting so many Ultimate omnibuses that maybe someday we're going to have all of that material that took place in the Ultimate Universe in omnibus format, and maybe even eventually wrapping up to Ultimatum, as much as a lot of you will hate that, but still super incredible that we're seeing all of these books rolled out. Here we are with Spider-Man The Clone Saga Volume 1 and 2. This is one of the most famous, infamous, not exactly sure what title to give it, but I love Clone Saga. I love Ben Reilly. I think this story, while it did go on far too long, I will admit that, I still always enjoyed it. This was my childhood. This was the books that I was stealing out of my brother's collection to read. This is my Spider-Man in a lot of ways, so it's always going to be important to me. It's always going to be a Spider-Man book that I'm going to turn to and read, and that's why it's in the collection now. Then we have one of my favorite Spider-Man characters, if not my favorite. It's between him and Miles Morales, and that is Spider-Man Ben Reilly, the Omnibus Volume 1. I do have Volume 2 floating around somewhere in this room, so that does complete the entire Clone Saga between Ben Reilly Volume 1, 2, and Clone Saga Volume 1 and 2, so that entire storyline is now in the collection. But I love Ben Reilly. I love the Clone Saga. So again, here we are with it in the collection. Here is one of my rare regrets, my second in the video, which is Spider-Man by Chip Zdarsky, the Omnibus. Now, before you guys throw the invisible tomato at the screen, understand that my only regret is that I found Spider-Man Life Story, the Deluxe Edition, which is the main reason that I got this omnibus, was for Life Story, in a LCS, and I could have saved myself omnibus money by just getting that Deluxe Edition. That's not saying that I don't like the other material in here, but the main reason that I got this omnibus, and honestly probably main reason most of us did, is because of Life Story. So that is a little regret there, but still such a beautiful book. Love that cover, and it is in the library now. Next up is Spider-Man 2099 Volume 2. Volume 1 was a lot of our most anticipated releases for Marvel, and if sticking in the 2099 universe is something that you would enjoy, then I also picked up and recommend you all picking up X-Men 2099. This is actually a title that I did not read. I've read a decent amount of the 2099 stuff, but when it comes to X-Men 2099, I've read very little of the material, so I am extremely excited to read this from cover to cover and share my thoughts with you all. But that does wrap up our grand reopening of the YouTube channel with a massive haul. I am sweating under my hat. My voice hurts. It's been a long time since I filmed, so that was a chore to say the least. But I'm here. I'm back. I'm going to start reading and start pumping out some reviews. Give me some grace period there still, a little bit. Gotta get the collection together, but I am back. But if you guys did want to get any of these books and you would like to use the channel sponsor and support the channel in any way possible, you can head on over to Organic Price Books, use the code STAYNERDY or Stay Nerdy, ship it together when ordering 4 or more books. It is a great way to save yourself some money, but also contribute to the channel. But once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for returning. And of course, as always, stay nerdy.